feeling it more for Oliveira if we would have played this semi-final yesterday. Like 30 minutes after what he did against Reina, because Reina did not play bad. It's just Oliveira had that Oliveira Katowice magic again, and he truly is a magical. I'm incredibly excited for it, especially because our first map body is Ghost River. We have loaded into it for our second semi-finals of the day. In the top left side, you're looking at the main base of the ESL Masters Katowice 2024 champion, and a man who's gone 7-0 so far in maps. Give it up for Serral.
In the top right-hand side, our blue Terran player, who is our reigning world champion of StarCraft II. Dallas, let's make some noise for Oliveira!
When you introduce him as the reigning world champ body, I still get some goosebumps, because that is just such an unforgettable day. And this tournament is just fantastic, because Oliveira is A, such a great dude, he's so sweet, and B, he's so passionate. But we know that he really has been trying ever since IEM Katowice. He's had a couple of very heartfelt speeches as well, right? Think back of Poland, think back of Stars War recently as well, where he's like, I'm really trying, guys. Like, I'm doing my absolute best. Game as 8 last year, he really came in with the intentions of, hey, I might not be able to win it, but I want to go far. Didn't really go all that far, right? Won 1 series, lost 3, and that was the end of him. It is awesome to see him finally kind of put the pieces back together, taking out a couple of Protoss players. Those have really been hunting him lately. So that was awesome on the first day. And yesterday he's showing us that when the TVZ is on, I mean, he truly is on.
He really is. There is no stopping him once he starts playing his game. It'll be interesting to see what Serral does about that. See if he does anything out of the ordinary to try and slow him down, cause some hiccups in the early game, or if Serral is just ready to feel the full force of Oliveira in later stages.
I like what Reina said, and I am expecting that as well. Like, yes, the Muda Link Bane stuff, or a lot of Links and Banes, maybe into some Ultras later on. Of course, it can still work, but then you're also maybe playing a little bit into the strength of your opponent. On top of that, I don't think that is going to be Serral's game plan. Reina is expecting roaches every game, maybe like 3 out of 4, 4 out of 5, depending how many maps we get to see. But yeah, I do think we are going to see stylistically here, Serral is going to be Serral. The helmet Zerg, as Lambo likes to call him. He's going to scout, he's going to react, he's going to make sure he's got enough units, and he's okay with the late game. You can have all the bases, all the sensor towers, all the ghosts. Yona doesn't really stress over those things. The longer it goes, the more likely it is, I think, in his mind, that things are going to go fine because he's Serral, and that's what he does in the late game. And obviously, Oliveira is going to try to find some of these devastating timings.
That first reaper comes across as we begin the scout and we begin the dancing. We just look to see what's going on. 3 hatcheries, link speed on the way up. So far, there is no abnormalities to this game plan. Even just Hellions on the way up from Oliveira as well. So he just gets himself set to take map control here on Ghost River, which is the first time it's been played in this tournament in TVZ. It shows you that this is not usually the map you expect.
No, I was a little bit surprised to see that this is the map that we're starting on. Maybe it's just one of these, like, all right, Serral doesn't really mind it, but he probably doesn't love it either, so he would have maybe rather played it a little bit later, or not at all even. If Oliveira just went for it immediately, which I assume is the case, I kind of like that, because you're also forcing him to play right now a map that got introduced a couple months ago, and of course Serral's good, and of course he's still been playing, but this is still not the same for Serral as Alcyone that he's been playing on for over a year at this point. Oceanborn, where you can literally dream every single ZVT scenario. A couple of the other Zergs have told me that this is actually their first or second veto because this map is actually unplayable. Serral is going to try to prove them wrong, as Reina just mentioned as well. That's kind of what he does to everyone.
It really is. He can take such a different approach to the game than a lot of other players, and that sometimes allows him. To be fair, his veto was Dynasty, which is also a very tough map for Zerg and ZVT, and this was the pick Oliveira had before second veto came in. So you have to pick one of the poisons here, and again, Serral chooses Ghost River as the Reaper and Hellions looking around. The Overlord just comes to double check on what's up, seems happy with the information. 2 Marines will try and chase it down to this corner. Overlord's going to try and play getaway.
Feels very unlikely that Serral is going to find any sort of aggression right on this map. This is one of the best defensive maps ever for Terran. You can have a tank in your main base that can help you defend your natural and your third base at the same time. So you're basically forced to play at least some sort of late game. Well, I guess Serral is not afraid of it. I'm incredibly curious to see where he's going to go in the mid game, as we have a little Ling run by. It may not be many Zerglings, but hey, if there's barely anything shooting at those Lings, they're going to find some damage. And it's -4 Marines. Fantastic start here.
Yeah, huge scout on the top. That's an armory right there. So now he knows he wanted to come across the map with Stim and Hellbat. So now Serral knows to be maybe a little bit more cautious than he would have had to be otherwise. So now Serral has that information. Problem is he went Evo Chambers first, and he's still going to invest into that. Now his spine starts up.
Yeah, double Evo even for Serral. How cool is this? Like +1 melee, +1 carapace, all the queens, all the lings. Wouldn't hate maybe a couple banelings as well, right? There comes the baneling nest immediately for Serral. Yeah, great scout. I don't think it would have been mega surprising if this happened, because we've seen this build being used quite a few times throughout this tournament, and I want to say with great success every single time. It seems like the Zerg is just not quite ready, but most of those Zergs ain't Serral.
That's very true. The Hellions actually split apart here. Oliveira realizes the scout, and so he says, I'm going to play this differently than I would usually. Try and split up a little bit instead of just going for one big frontal push, because I expect you to be ready. Honestly, I feel like if he went for one frontal push, he might still have some success. As the Hellions drop in here, morphing a Hellbat, things alone, going to struggle. And it's going to be a little bit troublesome as only one Queen's here.
Yep, absolutely fantastic spot to unload those Hellions, morphing them into Hellbats. Only a couple of Zerglings at a time. The Hellbats getting on top of the drones in our picture-in-picture in the bottom right side. One of the Queens is taking a lot of damage. I mean, Oliveira is finding some work here. As long as you don't lose the medevac, you got to be okay with this. He actually gets a few of these Hellbats out as well. So he gets a lot of lost mining time, gets a Queen, -3 drones, saves the medevac, saves 2 out of 4 Hellbats. I think that Oliveira is going to be okay with that, but that Ling run by earlier was still a bit annoying because he lost some of the Marines. Imagine if you can do this with 3 or 4 extra Marines. I mean, that DPS scales so nicely for a Terran.
Ling's going to run in here, the Marine's going to pull back, the Lings continue to run in. We got the rest of these Lings pulling up to the top, and that medevac is going to unload a couple of those Hellbats and chase those Lings down.
7 minutes into Ghost River though, Wadi. I feel like for the first time we're looking at a game that Serral's playing this tournament. I was like, I don't feel like he's in total control. I don't really see like, wow, there is no way this ever goes wrong. No, I think there's a lot of things that could go wrong. The work account, 61 against 61. It's obviously fun to compare some of the European Zergs that always believe in the very high drone counts. And then you look at a man like Dark, and you feel like he's all in for 15 minutes straight, but he really isn't because he's just Dark. And he has a great understanding of these like scrappy low eco scenarios. But I'm not used to Serral being down in workers in this phase in the game, as he's clearly trying to find damage, but it's so hard on Ghost River.
It's extremely difficult as we have the few Queens coming over, chasing down that little medevac there. But yeah, he's playing low eco. He is just trying to get the extra drones up now. I mean, I am scared of what the plan is, right? Because if you're just stuck on Ling Bane for a long time, and the Terran just sits there, maxes out, takes more and more bases, what's the long-term game plan for the Zerg in that scenario?
I believe the Infestation Pit is done. I do like Burrow, by the way. You know that I'm a big fan of Burrow. No, there's no Infestation Pit yet. I kind of thought I saw one. Serral's just going to try to go up to 5 bases. Maybe he's hoping that Oliveira falls into one of the Oliveira traps sometimes, where he gets a bit hyper-aggressive on moments where he doesn't have to. But I feel like Oliveira is having a perfect read on this game, and he's playing it well. Of course, needs to make sure that he keeps creep at bay and that he pushes it back a little bit. But as long as Oliveira doesn't grab all of his units and move out, it seems very unlikely that Serral is going to be able to find great economic damage. And if he can slow Oliveira down one way or the other, we're going to go for the hidden base in the bottom right side. Oh my, oh my. Wow. What is Serral cooking over here? I mean, it's cute enough, but I don't really see that coming into play.
No, it's one of those, the reason why you might try and do it is this map generally is going to end up being your side of the map versus the other side. And if you don't have a base to mine from as a Zerg on your opponent's side, that's very tough for you. So he's going to try and get away with it and now play Drop Lords, keep attention to the top. Okay, Serral.
I love it. 4 Dropper Lords. So maybe we're going to drop a whole bunch of Zerglings in the natural, maybe a couple in the natural, couple in the main base. I mean, that would obviously be cool. But it feels that Oliveira has enough army supply at this point to deal with this stuff. And even if Oliveira doesn't see this coming, and he's going to lose a couple STVs, make it 10, 15, none of that is going to be the end of the world. Here we go. 32 Zerglings making their way over to the other side of the map.
Yeah, getting those up around the top side. Meanwhile, Serral is skirmishing in the center. Oliveira so far paying good attention, but starting to push, and obviously it's a short rush distance to the other side here. So when you get there, it's going to hit quickly. Now Serral is all over the place, dropping to the top, running back to the right side, but doesn't find anything bottom and still fighting in the middle. This
is where I think Oliveira needs to slow the game down a tiny bit for himself. These trades have been fine, but he needs to have an answer for all these Lings that are going to be dropped in the natural main base. Widow Mines targeting the Dropper Lords. That's a lot of friendly fires, the -8 SCVs immediately, but all of that is acceptable as long as he doesn't lose all these tanks. But there isn't really a whole lot to buffer anymore for these tanks, Wadi.
These Lings just getting in from the other side, getting on top, and that is huge now. Lings still in the bases, finding damage. We burrowed there. That may have been a bit of a mistake, but we're getting so many more STVs. 23 have died, and Serral even has units getting out. He's still in that picture-in-picture doing damage.
Yep, Serral obviously finds what he is looking for, but he's still a lair tech Zerg. This is important to keep in mind. This is a great spot for Yona to be in, because now he did slow Oliveira down. He was able to pick off a bunch of these tanks that normally would have been so hard, as he immediately fires off more Dropper Lords. Now the Infestation Pit gets dropped, and 32 Banelings, but the Queens are off creep, so Oliveira is going to find a couple of these these screens, I think it would really help Oliveira right now to put on the scan in the main to see what the tech of Serral is looking like. Because this may have felt really bad, but if you actually see that Serral's still on lair tech, you'd be like, okay, yeah, that was annoying, but this isn't as crucial yet as it could have been, as Serral sneaks a whole bunch of drones to the bottom right side just to indeed already start mining out some of these minerals. He's going to see it.
Yeah, he's going to see it. That's such a huge catch from Oliveira, because knowing this, he can deny those drones. That means that's going to backfire. This Widow Mine is not off cooldown. The missile turret finishes, though, to get one of the Overlords. The other one will still get to unload, but that is a big help for Oliveira.
Yep, Oliveira still working with 100 army supplies, so it should be doable to clean up all these Lings and Banes. As Serral does fire up the hive, and it's going to make it hard for Oliveira to get his hands on the 5th base. Fighting near a planetary with pure Ling Bane Wadi. I mean, yes, he's got a lot of Banelings, but this is kind of risky. There's a tank in the mix, there's a couple Widow Mines in the mix as well, and it feels that Serral doesn't have too many units at home to deal with these rubs.
No, he doesn't at all. Both of them get across to different bases, so he is going to have to pull back to deal with that.
Whoa.
And we are going to see this DC just dying, so a mistake made from Oliveira. Now this medevac is low, it goes down as well, and Oliveira's offense is falling apart.
Yep, that's not too hot, but he's still sitting on 1,000 minerals. He's going to find a little bit of damage in the bottom side of the map just to feel better, right? You need that momentum, especially in game 1. The semifinals, gets 6 drones, gets out of there, and he's also seen that base in the bottom right, and that's obviously going to make life very awkward for Serral. If I was Serral, I think I would sacrifice his base and like at least try to send the drones away, but he really wants to mine from this for as long as possible. He is so freaking heavy on the Ling Bane. I almost wish there maybe a couple of infestors or something, right? That'd be kind of nice for this composition.
Yeah, I think so as well. As you see, Widow Mine starting to go off here. Serral's going to go deep. A couple of mines hitting the base, but we are going to make our way through to the planetary, to the mineral line. Lings are still leaking through, taking down siege tanks to the remaining bio, and it's Serral with units left standing at the end of this fight.
Couple of Lings and Banelings left. Obviously, Serral gets what he's looking for there. The 12 SCVs, the planetary, takes care of those Widow Mines in the tank as well, but that was not cheap. That was a ridiculous amount of Banelings, but I think he's okay with it, right? Especially with the economic damage. It's like, all right, if we can keep on doing this, eventually this is going to be a whole lot better for me than it is for you. As Serral's obviously comfortably mining of all the bases in the bottom left, and he still has his hands on the bottom right side as well.
Absolutely fantastic little situation here as Adrenal Glands coming up, +3 carapace, +3 melee, all on the way. We go scanning around. I mean, this is where Serral is still mining off the bottom right. It's so crazy. This is the issue with Ghost River, that you don't get one base over your opponent. And now he's just mining this for so long. The longer that goes, the more troubled Oliveira will be, the deeper the game goes.
I'm actually surprised there's no depots, by the way, on top of this ramp, right? I feel like that would make Oliveira's life a little bit easier, especially if Serral is so freaking heavy on the Ling Bane. Let's get a couple buildings there for Serral to at least use a couple Banes to blow up depots or a bunker, an eBay, whatever. Would be nice. He is going to make a tiny bit of progress. There's one thorough Baneling there, but that's not enough at first. Widow Mine is only going to get a very tiny shot off. Good job there by Serral. Moving the 2 Lings. I mean, it's going to be harder and harder to take out this base, but Serral's obviously aware of that. You know, at this point, he is playing the long haul, and he's like, all right, I am stealing resources from you in the bottom right side, and it's incredibly unlikely you will ever mine anything from my side of the map.
I think it's just going to split themselves forward, setting off a couple of those Widow Mines, but not too much happening. Serral pulling back once again, not overcommitting into these fights too much, just getting to finish up his Adrenal Glands. Now we're going to come in for a little bit of a flank, so we'll see if it works from 2 angles, but he says no, backing up once again.
This is where the Terran army does become terrifying, right? We have a couple Liberators in the mix as well. They always do crazy damage. 119 army supply at the moment for Oliveira. As being down a few workers maybe isn't all that bad anymore. You're going to mine out your main and natural anyway, so you can transfer a couple of these STVs. Serral's got 143 links, but against 9 Widow Mines, those tanks, those Liberators in great spots. Is that going to be good enough, Wadi?
Not really too sure. Let's see the Ling Bane coming through. A couple more Widow Mines get burrowed. It's definitely seeming troublesome for Serral to be able to push through. Obviously, this is through a choke point. The tanks are well set up now in a more forward position. Serral has added on some Vipers, but only 2 of them, and that's the only real tech we've seen. This is otherwise still just Lings and Banelings and nothing more. You're going to start diving in here once again. This is Serral down on upgrades. Blinding Clouds, Parasitic Bombs coming through as he wants to break through this. The tank's starting to drop. There's one still alive, though, getting a lot of extra shots, though.
I think this is one of the best fights for Oliveira, right? Sure, he's losing a few Marines and Marauders, but Serral lost a lot there, has drained the vast majority of his piggy bank that he was working on. Can we take a look at the unit lost resource tab real quick, just to figure out what we are looking at? 7,000 resources more have died on the side of Serral. And sure, if you play Ling Bane styles like this, that's often going to happen. And as long as he's mining from the bottom right side, you are kind of able to justify that. Eventually, you're going to need to find some slightly more efficient trades.
Kept on rolling in the Lings there, just believing he can keep going. We are going to see the Vipers nearby here. Should be an answer to those Liberators. Liberators. The base goes down in the bottom right, so finally we get rid of this issue that has been looming over Oliveira's head for 5+ minutes at this stage of the game. And yeah, we really need to get rid of those libs to get Manning back to Serral in his forward base.
I mean, I'm sure Oliveira's a bit annoyed, right, that he knows a lot of resources are gone off the bottom right that he'll never really get his hands on anymore, but he still has one entire fresh base. Even the base at 3 o'clock has died once, so there are plenty of resources left there, and he is pretty well set up. He's got +3, he's got +2 on the tanks as well. It's not that bad, and as long as Serral doesn't get anything more terrifying than Lings, Banes, and Vipers, you would think there is a world where Oliveira can stabilize, but Serral is gonna try to strike while the iron is still hot. There is no planetary here. Widow Mines have potential. We get a couple of decent shots. Not really any devastating shots so far though, so Serral is doing about as good as he could and should be able to deny this command center from becoming a planetary once more.
Stops Oliveira from mining this location. I do not know how those mines did not get better connections. They were targeted in the center and they ended up firing on like 2 or 3 links here and there. That was really something else as the Viper count grows once more from Serral. Even getting some missile upgrades for the future of this game as well, perhaps. Investing in his future, as right now it's no bank for either side. It's such a scary position. That's the Widow Mine that finally gets a bigger grab.
Yep, those are the shots that Oliveira is looking for. If you're Oliveira right now, you take a look at your supply, you're like 145. I really need to get my hands on a base desperately. But on the other hand, you probably realize, like, hey, earlier you had insane amounts of banelings, an absolutely overwhelming amount of units. Are you starting to run out of steam a little bit? And we can see that Serral is at 172 supply, does not have any money in the bank. He's firing up +1 pistol attacks now, by the way, maybe to help the Queens deal with some Liberators. I don't really know what that's all about, Marty, because we don't have Roaches, we don't have Hydras, we don't have Lurkers. What we do have is a bunch of Queens with energy. This seems to be a very important moment, but Serral cannot get up this ramp anymore. I am starting to like this game more and more for Oliveira.
He's finally stabilizing, getting that forward base up, holding this position is such a big turnaround on what was happening before. Serral again, not a huge bank, so every time he rolls in units, he's going to have to rebuild with just what he's mining right now. Planetary Fortress is here as well, so that's a big deal. And while there's a lot of explosions going on, it's hard to imagine Serral's going to find enough, but he is going to get the planetary, he is going to get the STVs as well. A few units to continue forward, a few more STVs running in as well. The Lings are continuing to go, and these units have no healing left, so the Lings will continue to chase. The Widow Mine doesn't do too much, and Serral somehow is the one, once again, left with units. How?
That's like the only possible great fight that Serral could have ever taken, and I'm surprised that it went the way that it did. He's not there yet. He's going to be very happy that he has taken out that planetary once more, as now Oliveira is obviously starting to have a hard time properly mining. It seems like the drones have burrowed for a little while on the bottom left side. That's a very cute move. Oliveira was busy microing at home, so the Widow Mines kind of just shot at larva, I guess, or a couple of links, whatever. Serral saves a couple of his drones. Nowhere near maxed out, doesn't have a crazy amount of money in the bank, does drop the Ultralisk cover now.
Well, something to kind of tech up the army a little bit. It's been a while since we saw Vipers first added. Now it's an attempt to move to Ultras. It's going to be an orbital in the forward position, which makes it easier to bust than it has been in the past. That was a planetary last time around. And still comes in with the Overlord to try and spread creep, but the Marines are quick to clean it up, so nothing found there. And yeah, I guess at this point we kind of just wait for Ultras, right?
It does feel that Oliveira, and I can't really blame him because he probably looks at his setups and he's like, I'm fine here. But he could have made his life a bit easier with a few more wall-offs, right? Just random buildings. If it's pure Link Bane that you're battling against, why not get a random eBay or two here? Serral would have such a hard time ever getting up a ramp like this. Serral wants to fight before this base becomes planetary, but cannot because it's already in orbital. These Widow Mine connections were pretty good, but it's still Serral who's running around with a few less links. A couple of banelings connecting with the SCVs. Parasitic bombs are connecting on every single medevac. And Serral will temporarily disengage, but he's going to be happy with that as Oliveira is forced to tap out, dropping to 80-something supply. Serral will always find a way, even on Ghost River.
What an absolutely ridiculous game. Pure Ling Bane. Finally, a couple of Vipers came through. He took that bottom right base as well. He had a game plan, and boy, did he stick to it. I feel like there's so many moments where it's like, okay, I feel like I need something else because it's so tough to get more done with Ling Bane at this point. And he just kept on going with it. And it, again, made it work with some incredible fights at the end.
There were a couple of decent Widow Mine connections, but every Zerg out there is wondering how some of these fights meant Serral's race. Like, come on, you're running up a ramp into a planetary near Liberators. There are mines scattered, and Oliveira didn't even make mistakes when it comes to putting 4 Widow Mines right next to each other, right? Where banelings roll in and they get all 4, and we're like, oh, that was a mistake by the Terran. No, some of these fights, it was a minor miracle that they went as good for Serral as they did, but hey, that's why there is only one. That's why we call him the Great Iona Sotala. This was also a big moment too, right, where with the links he was able to cause a tiny bit of chaos. And it's cool to see Serral play a style like this, because we often talk about how he how strong he is defensively. And yeah, Serral is quick, but that's not really his strongest suit. He looked pretty damn quick here, man, with all these run-bys scattered across 3 different bases. You never see the Lynx derp and attack a refinery or an eBay. Like, no, they were actually always fighting the units that they were supposed to be fighting.
I loved your point you made about like maybe just having some random buildings around, because if there's just some Sim City in some of these fights, surely there isn't then the extra 10 or 15 Lings that are chasing down Bionians that are really making the final difference in those engagements. Crazy stuff. Maybe a couple of things Oliveira could have done differently, but still just refused to let him have any base past number 4.
Like, that probably has something to do with the fact that Oliveira feels he is playing against Serral. And we mentioned the aura that Serral has around him, where you don't want to be that guy that's like turtling up behind depots and eBays, because you're like, no, then I'm going to give him too much time. I have an army that should be good against your army, so I am fine. And then the first time you're not quite fine, but the next time I'm going to be fine. And it just turned out he was never really fine. But yeah, a lot of other Zergs out there will be like, this doesn't make any sense. If I play like that, they've got 4 depots, an eBay, and a bunker behind it, and I'm losing half of my Baylings with massive tank shots firing into my army before I get anything done. Just several things, yeah, Waddy.
And that was meant to be the map for Oliveira. That was the map he got to pick before a second veto, so things looking tough for him. In the top left-hand corner of Golden Aura, his map pick here as he's up 1-0 in this best of 5. Can you keep the momentum rolling? A Red Zerg from Basilisk, it's Serral!
In the bottom right side of Golden Aura, we're looking at the main base of the man who's played a fantastic tournament so far. Finally overcame those TVP demons, beating 2 Koreans on the very first day. And yesterday we saw him play in fantastic series against Rainer. He is your reigning world champion of StarCraft II. Dallas, make some noise for DKZ Oliveira.
I thought pro was pro PT, man. That dream lasted about a week.
I mean, I don't even want to get into it, Waddy. Don't bait me.
Do you think Oliveira has something in particular planned for Golden Aura? Because this is obviously the map that Serral goes to straight away. So you've got to think he's got something planned for what is a Zergy map.
I've seen Oliveira play a couple of TVCs recently on Golden Aura, and it's always hard to like look at those games and be like, oh, that's what he loves. Because an online tournament, a little bit of prize money here and there, that is not the same as a semifinals offline here in Dallas. So there's no guarantee that he's going to do the same, but he does seem to be pretty confident in just turtling here, like taking it very, very slow. Obviously, your regular triple CC opening, whether with Hellions or Cloak Banshees, maybe a Liberator, none of that truly matters. But he will actually drop an incredibly quick 4th command center as well, where obviously at that point as a Terran player, you say like, all right, I'm giving up map control. I am not planning on killing you. All I want to do is get my 4 base set up, get 3-3 bio, get a bunch of ghosts, and take it from there, and then 1 base at a time. And I mean, you've casted plenty of TVCs, Waddy. You know how it goes, right? In TVC split step scenarios here, Zerg often gets their hands on the bottom left side very quickly. They'll most likely even pretty much mine out the gold, maybe not all the gas, but they'll definitely mine out those minerals. But if Oliveira is going to play it very slow and he can get his hands on that base in the top right, it could go his way, because he's actually very good in late game TVC as well when it just comes to getting value out of these units like Liberators, tanks, stores, and ghosts, of course.
And gets set up very, very normally. Just the factory. 3rd CC coming down as well, which really should just go to expectation, unless there's going to be some real tricks up Oliveira's sleeve. So we just see very normal stuff here for Golden Aura in this game at number 2, first few moments. Obviously expecting something way more normal from Serral. There's no need to play kind of mass Ling Bane. Almost all in on Ling Bane is what he was in that last game in a way. But no need for that here. There should just be a much more regular kind of style that he can play. And as the factory drops in, and we'll see that first couple of Hellions on the way. Link gets up and just gets to see that it's the factory on the reactor.
Yep. Oliveira and Serral played against each other as well in Atlanta not too long ago, where Oliveira had one of his Oliveira off days in the very beginning, lost to Spirit, lost to Solar as well on the first day in the winner stage. So he had to start in round 1 of the knockout bracket, continued to win a whole bunch of games in a row until he ran into Serral in the quarterfinals. It was a fun best of 5, it was 3-1, so Oliveira did manage to take a map, and taking a map of Serral in an offline event, that is very difficult already, but that was not really the best of 5 that went his way. But I feel like he's a bit better right now than he was in Atlanta back then.
Yeah, I feel like Oliveira kind of had that dip over the last year, and he's definitely kind of on the run back up right now, obviously. He's playing great at the moment, so Yeah, I would kind of agree with that. Right now, I'm pretty excited about Oliveira. Back in Atlanta, I was kind of not expecting too much of him. It was kind of cool to see him make the round of 8 back then, because that was a bit of a surprise.
I mean, it was a surprise as well, especially after the first day, right? I mean, winner stage didn't go his way, but battled his way through that knockout bracket back then. Serral in game 2 has opened up with the roaches. He's going to fire up 5 of them. Just a couple safety roaches for now. As you guys can see, no Zergling speed. There was obviously a chance that Serral gets Zergling speed much later because he's pretty fond of like roaches, ravages, and then lings, banes way down the line. We'll keep an eye on it as he fires up a 4-minute and 35-second Lair Wadi.
Very quick, obviously just opened with them roaches. So just going to get the Lair rolling here. Banshee out for Oliveira, so if there was more commitment to roaches, the Banshees will naturally just help there. As the Hellions get zoned out, and that allows Serral to keep his creep moving forwards. Just get it out in front of some of these bases and give him a good kind of, well, canvas to work upon.
Oliveira got a little adventurous yesterday with his Banshees against Rainer on El Sayani. This guy really wanted to get a cancel on that 4th base. Didn't quite work out. Lost one of the Banshees, the other one lost all of its HP. But then it's just Oliveira to realize that he can still have a timing afterwards, with or without Banshee damage. And what I love about Oliveira is if he feels it's time to go, he just never looks back, right? He stims in, tanks on siege, it doesn't matter. None of this like, oh, that was a good fight, let's slow down a little bit, let's see. Like, no, he just goes, keeps on stimming forward, right-clicks his Marines next to tanks, or next to Queens rather. Yeah, and I love that, right? If you see these opportunities to start creating that snowball effect for yourself, you just gotta send it, especially when you're playing against the very best Zergs in the world. Don't give them time to recollect and regroup their forces and get a couple of reinforcements out. No, you just gotta go for it. Oliveira needs to be sharp here. It's a little misclick, Wadi. Doesn't lose the Banshee, but we already lose 60% of its health. It's very unlikely they're gonna be able to do a whole lot. Now, he didn't invest in Cloak, so he's not banking on them to do crazy damage, but it's still a bit of a shame.
Would it be nice just to have them healthier and at least a threat on the map, something you still have to consider a little bit more as Serral. Now it's one more thing he can ease his mind on as he's continued through the melee upgrades. That infestation pit is coming in way quicker this game as we continue our tech forwards. And the Marines can look to deny the oversteer, which they will grab, so good pick off there from Oliveira. And Serral just keeps on setting up. Obviously these few roaches are getting through the early stages and now very happy to play into Lings, Banes, the infestation pit tech as well.
It's of course an incredibly different game than that very first game, but it is fun to look at the work accounts and see that Serral is enjoying a 23 drone lead at this point. In goes River, yeah, we had a lot of Lings, well upgraded Lings and Banes early on, but the work accounts were dead even. At one point, Oliveira even took the worker lead when they were like in the early mid-60s or so. So it's crazy to see how much Serral is able to get away with here as he fires up that hive as well. All right, Oliveira. He is adding 3 more barracks, is Wadi, and he has not dropped that 4th command center that I was alluding to earlier, where he's like, okay, giving up all map control, and he's not going to try to be aggressive at all. But I am starting to get a tiny bit worried for Oliveira if the first move out, whatever move out he exactly has in mind, if that doesn't go his way, I mean, he is in a world of trouble here.
Yeah, if nothing happens initially and Serral just gets away with all of this, then that would be absolutely huge as our Ling Roach continues to move about. These few Marines are coming back over around the top side. Just going to have our Valen speed coming up. Obviously, if we get to that, it's going to be way more comfortable for Serral. Hive is about to finish.
So Oliveira is just 8 vexing here with a single factory, a single starport. Yeah. Is that exactly what we are looking at as we have been unloading a couple of these Marines here, putting on some pressure? I mean, Serral has been mega greedy, but Oliveira is not moving out yet. Armory is done. I don't see 2-2 upgrades, by the way, being fired up. Kind of thought that that's something he would do. He's sending out a few more units. Gets a good trade here in the main base. Serral's going to be forced to send over a few more units. That should be enough Zerglings. First wipe is on the way. Adreno Glens. I mean, Oliveira really needs to start making magic happen. Willstone fires up the 2-2 upgrades now. But he's actually a little bit later than the +2 melee of Serral. But Adreno Glens, the Hive already done. It's kind of go time, right, Wadi?
If he doesn't go now, I mean, he can't wait for 2-2. I almost thought 2-2 was just something he decided not to go for because he felt like he'd just send it, but yeah, I feel like cancel 2-2, spend as much as he can on just bio units right now, but he's also supply blocked heavily 173.
This is cool though, the multi-prong. Makes it very hard, finds a couple of the queens as well in the center of the map. I mean, Serral sitting on a few too many resources, wanted to wait till Ultras. As Serral actually gets in range of all of these Marines, loses a lot of units, decides to turn around again. The Banelings get absolutely obliterated. Is this 8-Rex magic from Oliveira?
It really is, because Serral was just not prepared at all. One of the rare occasions you'll see Serral kind of panicking because he did not know what he wanted to do here. Pulling units back when they maybe should have just committed in. He just wasn't ready for this in the slightest.
Nope, he thought he was going to be able to get away with everything. We have that Ultralisk Cavern finishing up, but it's just a little bit too late. And I think the idea of a couple of Marines and the Hellbats on the right side, that's so cool, because Serral can just send a few Zerglings over there quickly, force Oliveira to pick up and disengage. No, you're going to have to send over Roaches. And then you have to worry about the terrifying army as well. I don't really know why Oliveira is turning around, though. Yeah, this is a couple of links and all, but that's not the play, Waddy. This is still Hive-Tech Zerg Serral. Ultras are on the way. Guidance Splitting is on the way. He needs to continue to go.
Yeah, you just don't want to give Serral any opportunity to get those tech units out in any sort of good numbers, so just go, send it. You've done great damage so far. Serral's clearly not ready for you. Go and make the most of that situation as we start to push forwards and we look to start moving up these ramps.
Marines gonna stand forward. A few Ravagers are gonna try to buy a bit of time. It is hard to get up these ramps when the Arcados about reigning supreme. 4 Ultras with Guidance Planning, plus 2 Carapace as well on its way as well. I love the Serral's even moving the Sport Crawler forward. Oliveira now sees the first Ultra pop, but that Ultra didn't have Guidance Plating yet, so it's gonna take a lot of damage. And don't forget that a bunch of Queens got picked up earlier as well. So we shouldn't see one of these scenarios where these Ultras are gonna live forever.
Well, here we go. Serral comes forward. A couple of abducts on the siege tanks. Corrosive Bows to get that second one. Like that little move. That is cute. Oliveira's supply is dropping already, and Serral is back in a supply lead. With these Ultras about to have kindness, he's going to be in his strongest position yet. The Vipers have the energy to Blinding Cloud too, and Oliveira is soon going to be regretting that pullback, I think, because Serral is chasing down this ramp and chasing Oliveira down a little, although maybe Serral's a little bit too far. He's losing a lot now.
Yeah, those Ravagers are pretty clunky boys, and they made it very difficult for all of these Ultras to make it down this ramp to where it started to look good for Serral in the end. It is not enough. It is Oliveira who's still able to tie things up. But I could not have agreed more than Waddy. I started to think, oh my goodness, don't tell me that you just gave him enough time to get all these Ultras out, because that really would have been a bit of a throw. He did so much damage with that first move out. Serral just a tiny bit too greedy, trying to get all the upgrades, straight up to Hive, straight up to Ultras. And he was not ready for the 8 Rex move out of Oliveira. Got close there. Maybe Serral should have just tried to focus on holding the ramp there, right? At that final fight. Because the beginning there went really good. It's just he felt the Ravages were blocking the additional Ultras, and it was like one Ultra at a time trying to make its way down this ramp. And this was that moment of panic that you mentioned. I mean, you kind of missed the beginning of it, but Serral in the end turns around, tries to connect with the Banelings, but those Banelings found absolutely nothing.
Yeah, that's the first time we've seen Serral falter, obviously, in this entire tournament, really, because it's been so smooth sailing so far. I think this was a great highlight because it really was that moment of, oh my goodness, like, I was dealing with this thing on the right and suddenly you've got loads of units here and you take back and forth, the Vipers flying, they didn't actually have energy to do anything, and yet he was taking a fight as though he was going to Blinding Cloud, so it just all fell apart in one moment there. And then yet, against Serral, it did feel as though there was a little bit of opportunity, and I think you're right, those Ravagers blocking that ramp, stopping him from getting down, and the Ultra's able to chase. That's what hurt him. If he splits some of this around that right side and comes down from over there, this maybe actually could have been Serral clearing up, and maybe we still are playing on Golden Aura.
Absolutely, because don't forget, Serral's getting the bottom left. Serral has this triangle as well. I don't think this base even has to necessarily die. This is where it went wrong. At this point, I think it actually looks good for Serral. It's the Roaches as well. Like the Roaches, the Ravagers. Look at these Ultras derping on that ramp, and the tanks getting absolutely fantastic shots up in the back. Yeah. I think if you resume this from replaying, you indeed send a couple of units down that ramp over on the top right side of our screen. That could have gone way, way better for Serral. And don't forget that, like, getting a single base and getting a couple of Banelings and drones, that was never enough for Oliveira. He's a 2-2 Terran with 8 Rexes, no 4th base, no Ghost Academy, no Liberators. No, he needed to do a whole lot more than an initial great fight. And Serral realizing as well that not one, but 2 things went wrong there. As even gods can bleed, and Serral loses his first map of the tournament as we get ready to hop into Oceanborn.
Well, in the bottom right-hand side, the man who has just faltered a little bit for the first time, can he get his mental back on track? Let's find out. In the bottom right, our red Zerg from Basilisk is Serral.
Oceanborn was their final map back then in Atlanta, which feels like a long time ago, but it's only 6 or 7 months ago. That's where Serral was able to close out the series and get a 3-1 victory over this man. He just showed that it is possible. Yesterday he said if he will play as well as he did against Raynor, he gives himself a 50-50 shot. That got Kalaris excited, that got a lot of us excited, and we are starting to see why. This is the man that's representing Dragon Kaisi Gaming, Oliveira. His crowd has been rowdy over the weekend, but I don't think I've heard him that loud after Oliveira just took that second game over Serral.
Oliveira love is wild, man. Like the cheers for Oliveira are so loud. When he was playing against Reno yesterday, they were loving it when he was winning those games. Loving it right there as he picks up this game 2, and this series is guaranteed to go on for a little while longer for sure now as we head into Oceanborn game 3.
I think it doesn't matter where we go, right? Obviously in China, Oliveira is incredibly beloved. We saw that at the Stars War event. It was fantastic to see them, all the fans showing so much appreciation for him. But we can go to Europe, we can go to America, it doesn't matter. Everyone that was watching Katowice 2023 fell in love with Oli that day. It was like, oh my goodness, that was so freaking cool. And how do you not cheer for him?
One of the most legendary runs in StarCraft II history.
Yep.
And did it all as well. I mean,
and the speech, don't make me cry.
Yeah, I know, man. Like you can pinpoint so many parts of it. As we do have our aim high section here, looking at the players' point of views and looking to see just how it looks in the early game on these guys' screens. Looking out.
I'm expecting a similar build order from Serral. Just because you won that first game with Lings and Banes and he lost with the Roach opening, that doesn't mean that, oh, now it's time to go back to the Lings and Banes. I think Serral was actually looking perfectly fine on Golden Arrow there for the longest time. He just wasn't really ready. And I do really love the way that Oliveira split up his forces the first time he moved out. I mean, in the end of the day, that wasn't a game that we've never seen before, or it wasn't rocket science. Oliveira barely did any damage with the Hellions, but he kept them alive. And morphing those Hellions into Hellbats and then complementing them with a bunch of Marines and Medevac makes it just a whole lot more difficult for Serral to fight. And Serral looked at it as like, oh, that's an awkward army for that phase of the game. And he sends over a few more units right on that moment. He obviously took that bad engagement with the Lings and Banes, turned around again, and didn't really get anything. And the fact that it still got so close after that does scare me a little for Oliveira, because I don't think we're going to see Serral make those mistakes a whole lot throughout this best of 5.
No, those opportunities to take advantage of a Serral mistake are going to be few and far between as the Reaper continues to dance about. Obviously, Starboard coming up here from Oliveira as well. 3cc just happy to play fairly normal builds, and Serral going to get that Roach Roam going early again.
Yep, I think it makes sense, right? If that's obviously what he's been practicing for a long time, that's what he finds a lot of success with. Serral did not lose Golden Aura because of his build order. He lost because he made a mistake, and then actually still got Omega close. I mean, we went over that ramp a couple of times. Serral will just go with what he has practiced, what he believes in. There's, of course, a chance that he switches it up as well, and that he throws out one really aggressive build. It's so risky this deep into the tournament. When you've played such a strong tournament so far, do you really want to put it all on the line with a Queen Roach Knights attack on Oceanborn? That just doesn't really scream Serral to me.
No, it really doesn't, especially because I think he knows he can play very solid, longer games. Yes, it went wrong that last one. I don't think, like you say, he's going to make similar mistakes a second time over. This time, Oliveira does get that cloak started up for the Banshees, so a bit more invested there. Maybe we'll try and be a bit more active with them. As this overlord comes in, Serral just looking for the scout, and he's going to find 3cc. He sees the reactor, the tech lab building on the barracks, and he sees the tech lab on the starport.
Yep, and now we're going to keep a close eye on Cloak, right? Because will Oliveira actually let it finish up? Or they did just want Serral to scout it. Serral with a 4 minute and 30 second there. That's even a little bit quicker than the previous game. He's loving it. That's his build, his go-to. Don't really expect anything different from Serral. Just maybe a tiny bit less greedy, a few more units, and have a better idea of when Oliveira is moving out and with what, and obviously where the forces are on the map.
Well, Alair's halfway done. The Hellions just sitting out. A couple of back at home just in case Serral has something running around the other side. Oliveira says he only needs 4 out here with this Reaper to keep map control. And Serral talking about 4 takes his 4th base. So just drops that straight down to the 6 o'clock. His engineering base will start and just set to sit it out for a few more moments here in this semi-final.
It's already been a very fun one. You always hope that the semi-finals deliver. Picked right to Cursals yesterday, right? We're saying like, oh, we had so many epic series yesterday. That probably means we're going to get a bunch of trios. And I was like, no, Figgy. Like, no, don't do that. First of all, nobody wants to see that. This time around, Oliveira is going to go for that 4th command center, by the way. 5 minutes and 30 seconds into the game body. So what I was referring to on Golden Aura, he's actually bringing out here on Oceanborn. And that's kind of cool, especially after he was just mega aggressive. Might have put a tiny bit of fear into the back of mind of Serral, right? That something aggressive is coming once more. And perhaps Oliveira is going to be able to get away with his form of extreme greed. That does mean that he gives up a lot of momentum, and it does mean that Serral can get to play the Serral game. But yeah, if Oliveira believes in it, why not?
Banshees actually doing okay here, getting 3 drones and just sitting between the bases. Hellions going to try their luck, but Roaches are immediately in position, so that's a no-go. 2 Hellions actually go down. We get a Queen, though, from the Banshees, so they find some further damage. Not bad at all, and now this main is less protected than it should be, and this is starting to become a real problem.
There's actually more damage than you normally see a couple of Cloak Banshees get against Serral, and we can't even say that Serral skipped out on the Spore Crawlers because there was no Cloak last game. No, he did get triple Spore, so there was definitely some detection. Just excellent Banshee movement by Oliveira. Oliveira probably thinking like, man, damn it, if I knew I was going to do that well, maybe I should have done 3 phase 8 racks once more.
Yeah. That's the sort of damage, because you're right. If it was 8 racks, you'd just be able to like really hammer home. Woohoo.
You can kill that, by the way, with this many Hellions and a Reaper. Well, maybe if you get one more volley off, you could have gone in for it, but I guess with the Roaches already being on top of these Hellions, maybe I was worried that the Queen would then start blocking as well, and then you lose all your Hellions.
Kind of
makes sense.
Gamble, right?
Yeah, it would definitely be a gamble.
Well, drones transfer. Hive is on the way up once again. Serral taking no gaps there, but this time he'll be a bit safer to do it because Oliveira is moving his 4th base into position. So gets that drop down on the 12 o'clock now. And we just have continued to accelerate towards a later stage of this game. Obviously, tech is going to continue to flow through here from Serral. Again, some Baneling speed, even Ling speed now as he readies up that switch from the Roach-based army to Ling Bane focus. And yeah, just Hive obviously will be a big thing that he might actually get to see a little bit more of here on this Game 3 than he did in Game 2.
Burrow getting fired up as well. Some of the Zergs do sometimes fire up Burrow and then they cancel it, right? Because they're like, nah, I don't really need it. It was just a tiny mistake. But it seems that this one is on purpose. Pretty strong army here, though. And obviously on the bottom left side, Oceanborn. Too many great tank spots to even mention them all. This is something where Serral's going to have to be very, very cautious because Link speed is nowhere near done. Roaches and Ravagers can obviously do fine as long as these tanks are not sieged, but eventually the tanks will probably siege somewhere. Serral's going to push Oliveira back for now, but and this could actually get kind of scary, as Oliveira is obviously establishing his own 4th base.
Yeah, Serral just taking a very aggressive stance. Says, hey, look, I just want to make sure you don't get in position, because if you do, there's a high possibility I am in trouble. Like you said, Ling speed wasn't done, Bane speed is still on the way. Now, and if an attack comes, he's going to feel a lot better about fighting it because he's going to have all the other tools he's been building towards. Vipers are also now, what, a minute away from being out with energy available as well. A couple of Banshees do come back in. Nice to see them still active. The benefit of keeping them alive means they can come back for round 2 later in the game, and they're going to get a couple of drones, a spore cancel. And that's going to be a nice little grab from Oliveira as the tech all hits in from Serral. I wonder if he's going to get kind of aggressive once those Vipers out, if he wants to try and make some pushes happen, or if he's happy to then tech further himself, as drones keep dropping. These Banshees have been amazing.
Yep, the Banshees have been good, but Serral's drone count was incredibly high. So -8 drones, obviously Oliveira is going to be happy with that, but Serral's still sitting on 90. He's making 7 more. Now you do have to, at one point, probably slow your roll down a little bit, because obviously as a Zerg, if you're maxing out at 102 army supply, it's going to be hard to take great fights, especially if you want to start taking out planetaries and whatnot. That will just be very difficult. Of course, Oliveira's SCV count is proper high at the moment as well, but Oliveira is most likely aware of the fact he's going to lose some of them to some Ling Bane run-bys eventually. A PF will die, and his army is going to get absolutely terrifying. As these Banshees continue to find value, they're going to get a cancel on the hatch, they're going to get another cancel on the hatch, and they snipe the drone as well. Oh, these Banshees have been amazing.
They really have been. As the hatchery goes bottom left, a few Marines moving around. The medevac's overhead. Lings are going to run in. Hatchery gets cancelled. Banes continue to get over there. And that's a really good job from Oliveira, just finding ways to delay Serral in this later stage. Nice catch on the Banshee, though.
Yep, Oliveira is finally going to end up losing one of them, but I do kind of like what he's doing here, man. He's just going to cancel after cancel. I feel like he's done an alright job in keeping the creep at bay as well. Of course, Serral is going to continue spreading that creep, and it's important that Oliveira stays on top of that. But 2-2 upgrades done for Oliveira. First Ghost on the way. We have Drilling Claws as he's getting a whole bunch of mines. Serral dropped the Hydralisk then too, I believe, so he can also go into Lurkers eventually. But Oliveira just says, alright, I was greedy, you were greedy, you've got your bases, but that is going to be it for now. I'm really not going to make it that easy on you. I'm getting another one. And Serral said, no, we're going to continue to try. That's a very easy cleanup there on those 2 medevacs, but that's alright. You know, Oliveira can replace those units in no time.
Yeah, very far from it being a super impactful cleanup. As the general close coming through, I mean, just honestly looking at upgrades finishing. This is what this game has been about, alongside this little bit of harassment. Oliveira clearly very happy to stick into a later game. Great target by Oliveira, okay. Very pretty stuff. I was going to say, Serral's got the Lurker on the way out, so he's continuing to attack through himself into other things and giving himself other options.
Look at that fortress, a planetary fortress in the dead center pretty much of Oceanborn. I mean, a little bit above the center, but the center of Oliveira's defenses, that is incredibly hard. If he would have ever done that, by the way, and goes River, good luck, have fun with Link Bane, right? But we didn't really get to see it. Serral did get a little glimpse of it with his Zerglings then. He's like, oh, okay, well, that's going to be hard. Would love to see a Nidus, and the Nidus goes down immediately. But it's also hard to get Nidus networks up. So Oliveira has missile turrets for days. He's got sensor towers, and I can give him the heads up that maybe Overseers, or Lord knows what else, is trying to sneak deep into the natural main base. It's going to be probably a long one, Wadi, as both players are getting their hands on pretty much all the bases. There will be one or two bases. They're like, all right, this is the one that I don't want you to mine from. Seems that Oliveira is at least going to get a very comfortable 5-base setup here. That 6-base in the top right should always be there, right? Like it's very unlikely that Serral's going to get his hands on. So then we have to fight over these 2 bases. Serral already mining up the base at the top right side at 2 o'clock. And he's also trying to get the one in the bottom left side as he feels this might be a moment to go for it. Planetary Fortress is not quite done yet.
So many siege tanks though, and they are continuing to get damage done. Finally, the Bane's got on top of them. The Ghost will keep on running. Serral, he made good progress here, but he's not going to get through the Planetary Fortress. And I always feel as though trade-outs like this, you'd be loving to try and hit the Planetary, hit some SCVs. That doesn't really exist for Serral. Right now he's rich, but mostly mineral rich. I guess attacks like this do scale Oliveira backwards, which makes it a little bit easier for Serral to perhaps keep these bases, and now he's going to Nidus just around the map, just as a reinforcement pattern.
Yep, that's very cool, and also a way to evacuate the drones. Like, Serral already knows that if Oliveira is going to play it this slow, those are the 2 bases that it will come down to. Serral has the bases on his side of the map, Oliveira is going to have the bases on his side of the map, but there will be 2 bases that eventually those resources are going to matter the most. And Serral started doing this a long time ago already against Cure. I've seen it a few times on maps like Dragon Skills, where he just gets the Nidus networks around his hatcheries. If Oliveira ever makes a proper push to one of those bases, sure, he might lose the hatchery, but he's going to save the drones, and he's just going to mine from the bottom left. It's a really cool play, and Serral's incredibly good in making sure he doesn't lose drones too early and way before he wants to lose them.
Link Bane comes over, pushes back, a couple of Liberators get themselves sieged up as we have the continue to fight over there. Widowmine hits the Viper, doesn't quite go down. Serral actually attacked quite aggressively through this choke. There's only really the tanks and the Lib there, so with enough units, you do leak through onto those tech units, and this time we're going to get STVs. Not quite the Planetary Force yet, but maybe we can finish that off with some bars. There is some repair going down. The Planetary is going to live. That's a huge save from Oliveira.
Oh, yes. 10 SCVs do go down, but Oliveira keeps the Planetary alive. Meanwhile, he's going to take out this hatchery in the bottom left side. Serral shouldn't have lost too many drones there. I don't think he even had too many drones there to begin with. As a Liberator is battling a Queen in the bottom side. Yeah, I mean, these are the kind of fights where it's like, that wasn't great for Serral, but it's also a couple of the basic units that he needs to get rid of anyway. Roaches are not going to make the difference against a 200 supply 3-3 Terran with Liberators, so you kind of want to trade them out eventually, and you want to get more of these strong Hive-Tech Zerg units. And Serral's probably going to play a bit of everything, right? Where it's like, first it's about Lings and Ultras maybe down the line, then it's about Lurkers, still a Brute Lord switch as well available. I think Serral is just going to analyze the army of Oliveira properly, try to trade out and see, all right, if you remax on that, then these are the Zerg units that I want to go for.
Spire on its way. Link Bane Hydra moving about. The creep, by the way, is all over the place as well. The only place that isn't is that bottom left where Serral's trying to re-expand to right now, which makes sense because that's the one base Oliveira has put some attention to denying. This is a very hopeful base. Serral should be pulling these drones away. That's what the Nidus is there for, and he gets one of them out. He doesn't even, he sends it back. He's like, you know what, I was so late. Have them all, but that drone will live.
The drone's going to become the new hatchery.
It is, isn't it? Wow.
Minus 15 drones, a little bit painful. Serral's going to reproduce 15 drones immediately. Still feels that he needs that many. Even though you think 15 minutes in, maybe a couple of the bases are dried up and you don't really have a spot to put all these drones. But Serral probably thinks that this is going to be an incredibly long one. Does manage to cancel the hatchery this time around. 2 more workers will fall though. Like Oliveira is able to do most of the things he's looking for. A couple of ducks landed in the top right side, so Serral gets, I think, 1 or 2 full medevacs. Oliveira is immediately rebuilding those units. He's lost more Liberators. Advanced Ballistics is done, more tanks as well. And we have our first nuke on the production tank.
Yeah, obviously nuke's very fun. Good way to kind of force the Zerg to look around the map every now and again. Another distraction to add into the Terran arsenal of harassment. Really, again, continue to deny this base, which he has to. He can't let Serral mine from this one at a time, right? As Resources lost already, 7,000 in favor of Oliveira, 6,000.
Yeah, no, that's a lot. And of course, we started on Ghost River too, but Ghost River was a game where Oliveira was never quite able to get his hands on all the bases that he wanted to. This is an incredibly different game. Oliveira is maxed out. He's got all the upgrades he can dream of. He's got the production facilities he can dream of. Serral is going to have to find some better trades. Now, it's normal that the numbers don't really favor Serral with the way that this game has gone, especially getting rid of all those roaches and ravages. Yeah, he's going to be a little bit behind as he does not cancel the hatchery this time around, so that's 300 minerals more. Serral really wants to start making something happen, Waddy.
He really does. He wants. I thought this might have been the moment, but he's going to pull away. Too many libs cannot break through quickly enough. There's a nuke launching, and it's going to be coming down over here as Serral is going to be finding that ghost, and the nuke will land. A couple of drones dead, but he does get the ghost out of it. So still pretty well handled, all said and done. And as the SCVs keep transferring over, looks like it may be time to try and establish to the upper right side and actually get a base here as Oliveira. Looks as though he may focus on that very soon.
Yep, Serral was going to try to mine a little bit from that one more time. I mean, at this point, Serral is mining of the two bases that you could say should be evenly divided. It's that one in the bottom left, and it's the other one in the top right. Oliveira is not even close to doing something about it. This is one of Oliveira's bases. This isn't even one of these 50-50 bases. No, that base always belongs to Oliveira. But I don't think Oliveira truly cares if Serral tries to take it, as long as he's not able to come through and mine from it.
And Ling's going after a bunch of those SCVs. Hatch gets cancelled up again as we continue to try and, again, just find little skirmishes. It's hard to find a bigger fight.
Yep. What do you think Serral needs to do to really crack something open and start making this game hard on Oliveira? Because, yeah, he's mining a lot, and Serral's got a decent bank. I think we all know that, in general, the Terran army is going to scale a little bit better, especially once the SCV count goes down and the Ghost Liberator count is going to increase. Where would you like to see Serral go?
Probably need more spellcasters right at the end of the day. Like, that's usually the secret. More Vipers, Infestors, start taking better trades later into the game once you've established that eco, once you've established all that money that your opponent can't access. So, something along those lines as we get an Abduct on 1 and 2 Liberators just to finish those off. And again, just a nice little delay. We see the Ultra Cavern coming up from Serral, which gives you a little bit more kind of headbutting power. But yeah, I think overall, to kind of really win fights, spellcasters are probably the secret.
So tough as well, right? When Oliveira gets those planetaries. Look at the minimap. Literally every single base at the moment is being revealed. It's almost like he's asserting his dominance, letting Serral know how rich he is, how many orbitals he's got to work with. Because he just wants to see what he has to... in case Serral was maybe banking up some of these high-tech units already somewhere. And Oliveira just got a little sneak peek. He turned Fog of Aura for a solid 10 seconds. He's like, oh, okay, like, it's kind of what I already thought was happening. At that point, you start wondering, is this game looking like kind of good for me? But you never want to get too excited when you're playing against a man like Serral. As another nuke is landed. Where is he dropping that from the low ground? That's actually kind of cool. It's very hard for Serral to even get detection there.
Yeah, he's not going to be able to do too much about it as the Lingbane again running forward, but will not be able to do too much. Good dodge away from the nuke. Serral found it quickly and dealt with it properly. Yeah, he is rich, but you're right, that's pretty much the only thing he is in this game. He's rich, but how do you ever take a fight? Well, Lingbane's going to try and leak through towards these ghosts. Got rid of the tanks, actually going to get some Lings on top of the planetary fortress. Now the Banes will turn back around. It looks as though we're going to get a base, though out of nowhere, Serral finds himself a base, finds himself some SCVs, and finally, after a lot of kind of trying and attempting, he actually finds a moment to fully commit.
If I was Oliveira, I wouldn't really rebuild those SCVs anymore. Like, you still have 52, I think that's plenty. When you have all the production facilities, all the bases, all the orbital commands, well, I really don't think you need any more. And that obviously means that the Terran army supply is going to increase to 148 if he maxes out at this point. And that's where it's going to be harder and harder as a Zerg to find great fights. The combination of Ghost Liberators with advanced ballistics in the late game is so damn difficult as snipe on snipe goes off. Your Baneling spreads into the Ghosts, but these Ghosts are pretty tanky. The Medivacs here are healing it up. And Serral's also going to lose a base. There's Knight is here, but Serral's not actually evacuating his drones yet. He's going to do that towards the very end. I mean, that's the power of the Ghost on full display. That wasn't even a fight.
Another base loss then from Serral as Oliveira takes more and more control in the upper right. Now Serral, because he's losing control top right, he wants to take more control on the left side, which means that he's not just happy having that bottom left base, he wants this one at least not mining from the Terran as well. So that's the idea here as the map develops. You see these ghosts so far, there's been nothing to touch them, and this is where obviously maybe something a little bit extra might have gone nice at some point.
You mentioned those spellcasters a while ago, Waddy. Serral obviously has Vipers. We've seen Vipers, Parabomb, a couple of Abducts, and has a few Links to get on top of a tank. That's cool and all, but I almost feel that we do really need to start praying for those holy fungals. Because if you don't land great fungals, how are we going to kill all these ghosts? Sure, If the Lings and base get surrounded, there's no medevacs to save them. It's always possible, but it feels like that's only possible if Oliveira makes a mistake. And Serral normally doesn't really rely on his opponents making a mistake. He's the one who creates his own great plays.
There has to be a switch at one point, and Serral may only have like one major switch, right, towards some Broods, and then adding on some Infestors or so. So it's about timing it correctly, but I mean, I guess it has to be sooner rather than later, because I don't feel like this game's going to start getting any better with what he already has.
No, he's going to get a second Spire as well. We already have a great Spire. As these Corruptors, by the way, found some nice value. A Liberator here, a Medevac there. Not often you see just 2 Corruptors at a time. Having a good time, chipping away at units, and somehow that was the only battle. So Oliveira sneaking in quite a few Vikings already. Current count 4, has 4 more on the way, makes it up to 8. Seems to already be anticipating a potential Broodlord switch.
Absolutely. We're not going to see that nuke launched on down. Lanebane Hydra coming across actually does get rid of the Ghost. And it's just going to be another clear out there as Oliveira sits happy. Oceanborn again with the base on the upper right coming up. It really feels as though Oliveira should be feeling the best he's felt all game. Yep,
17 Widowmines currently out on the map. Serral is working with 128 Zerglings. It's going to be tough for Serral to find great fights. It's never impossible, but it seems it's so scary. Goes reverse somehow. Serral managed to find a couple of excellent fights that really weren't easy, and I think a lot of Zergs would have had a very difficult time finding those fights. But here on Oceanborn, where Oliveira has all that splash damage of the planetaries, of the tanks as well, I feel like it's borderline impossible. So it really comes down to the spellcasters, one abduct at a time. Blinding Cloud. Wow, that base is pretty far away, isn't it?
Little out of position. I've tried that strategy before running.
Yeah.
Didn't go trade.
I mean, if it's your 7 base Wadi, I'll let it slip. If it's your natural, then it's a bit problematic.
Yeah, but you haven't seen me on 7 bases running. Once or twice.
Yeah, a long time ago.
It's been a while.
I know you had some macro, Wadi. I would never leave you as an all-in. You ain't loco.
I ain't loco. No, absolutely not.
I've seen your 7 bases more than I saw loco.
Nuke launches from that low ground again, mate. He is really utilizing that position. Again, it's just something you have to keep on thinking about as Estelle going back to dealing with. And if you're not dealing with it, then potentially lands, but he actually pulls back at the perfect moment. Is going to get rid of this base here. There's not enough SCVs to obviously keep it alive, as the Lings will eventually take a shot off a Widowmine as well. But yeah, nice to actually clean out this position, because that's one of the things that Serral or Oliveira done well, finally establishing that position. However, because we focus to the upper right and make something happen, Serral is now going to lose out in the bottom left, and this is the tug of war here on Oceanborn.
An eye for an eye. As Oliveira will be looking at this, but like, that's all right. The SCV count has now dropped to 39, and that obviously means potential army supply 161. And this is where it's going to be incredibly difficult for the army of Serral. Serral has done a very good job, by the way, when it comes to the units lost resource tab. He was down 6-7k very early. Now 24 minutes into this game, he's down 8k. Those are completely acceptable numbers, especially with how much Serral has been able to mine of those bases, as you really are just counting resources at this point. It's like, all right, you've got your bases, I've got mine. I know I've stole some. Oliveira really does not seem to be in any sort of a rush whatsoever. Probably be completely aware of the fact that his army is going to get better and better. Like, their strength really goes up in numbers, especially if there's Liberators to protect them from every single angle. Oceanborn, for that reason alone, can be a very difficult ZVT map. There are some Terrans right now who feel like they don't really like it anymore. Spirit even vetoed it, I believe, in one of the series. I heard Lambo ask him about it, and Spirit said it's very difficult to get your hands on a 6th base here. Well, Oliveira has been able to do that, Wadi, and then some.
Bane, big numbers on the left-hand side, as again we can see kind of the Terran army move right, the Zerg army's on the left, and it's about trying to pierce on through somewhere and somehow. We got a few more Corruptors on the way from the Steros as well, building up into that Air Force, getting the answer to some of these Liberators going. He has been losing some of these Corruptors because the Viking count is quite high from Oliveira as well, and the Grey Spire is right here, so if you lose this base, potentially lose some important tech along with it, and that's perhaps a problem that Serral has not really considered just yet.
11 more Corruptors, 8 more Overlords as well. Maybe Serral is just going to make sure that whenever he engages, he has plenty of overseers, go forward, try to drag some of those Widowmine shots over the Terran army. And the last thing you obviously want to see is have only a few overseers, then be supply blocks, and you have a tough time remaxing it. That big battle that we've been waiting for, Wadi, we've been kind of patiently waiting for a very long time, is eventually going to happen. I just hope it's not going to be one of these pew battles where we sit there for 26 minutes and then the fight is not really a fight and then even the remax, but I am sure that Serral will find somewhat of a decent fight and then perhaps with that monstrous bank that he's sitting on. Those 8,000 minerals, 7,000 gas at this point. The Remax will be good enough.
Corruptors do pull back. A couple of Vikings. The first 3 vehicle weapons is on the way. Yeah, I'm with you, man. We want to see like a proper fight. We want to see a couple of grueling fights, perhaps, rather than just like you say, pew pew, everything dies. It's like, okay, there you go. 30 minutes of StarCraft wrapped up. The base gets back up, but there's still a Liberator here. There's still going to be a nuke attempt in that location. And we're just going to see Oliveira still putting pressure on that position as he's still trying to reestablish top right side as well. Serral's going to actually dive down this round. A couple of Widowmine shots somehow still don't go off well. Serral's control against those mines is incredible.
Yeah. 17 mines on the map, and we're still waiting for those monstrous shots, but Oliveira says, all right, it is time to get a little bit more, as he's going to move the Liberators forward. They are ready to spread justice from above. Banelings rolling in deep, actually blowing up a couple of the ghosts. I mean, that's about as good as you're ever going to see. There's a Greatest Fire here, a bit of an awkward spot for a Greatest Fire. And is also researching +3 armor for those Corruptors, for those Broodlords down the line, as a nuke is going to potentially land as well.
Oh dear, well we are going to see a huge fight start up because parasitic bombs and all sorts are happening. Ling Blade funds through, and at the moment Oliveira is just losing out big time. These Corruptors are playing cleanup, and if Oliveira wants to rebuild, it's going to take up a lot of his money. He's still building Vikings. I kind of feel like he wants to turn away from that right now because he's lost the Sky fight.
Oh, that's a good Widowmine shot there on the right side. I mean, Oliveira had a lot of his forces there, but not all of them. He left plenty of mines behind. He left a couple of Liberators and tanks behind too. Made a bit of a mistake, right? Sieging those libs kind of on top of each other, and all the Vikings were on top of the Liberators as well. Serral saw an opportunity there for a juicy parabomb or two. Landed it. Excellent fight for Serral. And Oliveira will realize that he's going to have to probably play it a tiny bit slower, and that doesn't necessarily mean not do anything. I mean, the unit resource tab even got close. It was 8k before, now we've gone down to a 7k difference. And Vikings and Libs are expensive. Serral got extreme value there of just 2 parabombs.
He really did. Widowmine shot goes out here as we are going to be seeing these links continue to move through. A couple of Widowmines still going off. Baneline's connecting in. A lot of ghosts getting cleaned out. We just continue to push through. That ghost count going down. And Oliveira with no money left in the bank. Mineral count is near to 0. These mules are important then because of that, but they are going to get busted down as well as Serral is commanding this game. He said 3 minutes ago he kind of wanted to see some big fights and not let this happen all at once, but it kind of was just one big fight from Serral, and Oliveira's just bled out heavily from that.
Yeah, but he's obviously not there yet, right? Even if Oliveira's bank is indeed very low right now, he can spam mules for days. 11 SUVs left, I mean, that's not a whole lot. The armies are still somewhat comparable, but Serral's done a really good job in taking out a lot of expensive units. Those Liberators, those Vikings, and quite a few ghosts continue to die as well. How many ghosts are remaining? Because as long as the ghost count is high, it's 8 at the moment. Yeah, that's not the number that Oliveira is looking for. If you're looking for like 17, 18 ghosts, and there is plenty of Liberators to protect those ghosts, you're like, all right, there's always a shot for the Terran. We have more Vikings now than we have Libs, but I actually feel like Libs are the units that will help keeping those ghosts alive.
Ling Banel just starts to fight through. A couple Corruptors in the sky. Going to be supported by parasitic bombs. It's the ground army that needs to hold on for Oliveira as he is finding some snipes, but it's not going to be good enough. And Serral will retake the lead of the series.
There was a whole lot of waiting for just a couple of fights, but Serral saw an opportunity to drop the biggest barrel bombs perhaps that we've seen throughout the entire tournament on top of all these Liberators, all these Vikings. And that was so expensive for Oliveira, so he's going to try to reduce it. And just couldn't really get it going. Oliveira shaking his head there a little bit, wondering, how did that even go so wrong? I kind of thought I had a good Terran setup, I had money in the bank, my army is supposed to skill so well into the late game, and we've seen plenty of TVDs out there where it just almost seems impossible for the Zerg to take a great fight, and it's the Ghosts that look like they are the invincible units. Instead this time around, I felt that Oliveira wasn't really able to find a great fight.
Yeah, he's just... It was a good setup, it was a great defense, right? It was very tough for Serral to find much, but then Oliveira also never found his moment, and Serral, I think, was very good about not running in overly necessarily, you know, like he didn't like dive in repeatedly and again and never stopped. And I think he was very smart about the fights he took there, which made it much tougher for Oliveira, as when he did commit, like moments like that, he always seemed to find damage. He found some unity, found some workers. That was a big part of this game, that fight as well.
I actually felt like at this point the game really does not look bad for Oliveira. If you look at the numbers, of course Serral's got a big bang, but Oliveira's got a terrifying army. It's just here, these Vikings, these Liberators so on top of each other. Those parabombs were amazing, and Serral gets a great fight. There was not really a way to save those girls. I mean, look at these parasitic bombs, buddy. They're absolutely disgusting.
Splash was absolutely huge there. Everything melts. And that was such a big part of Oliveira's plan to kind of control those skies a little bit and to utilize that to support the ground, but then it never happens. This was obviously an explosive situation as well, but it was just not enough from Oliveira, whose bank was smaller, but it's okay, because eventually you still have more money to get. But that means you can't ever just lose everything all at once, and that's what happened. Then the last base goes down, and you're just broken.
Serral very good as well about repeatedly taking these fights. We had to wait a long time for it, 28 minutes, but then Serral just took 3 quick fights in a row, knowing that his bank was a bit bigger. He was able to mine of those 50-50 bases, where one belongs to the Terran, one belongs to the Zerg. He was able to remax immediately, and before Oliveira was truly able to even regroup and get a proper staging run going, Serral was there to destroy it again. As Iona takes a 2-1 lead here in the semifinals. We get ready for Game 4. Game 4 will be played on Alcyone.
Well, no break needed apparently. You know, usually after 3 games you're allowed to break 30 minutes. You think they'd take it? Nope, they don't want it. They just want to keep the StarCraft II coming here in the semi-finals of the ESL SC2 Masters Spring Finals. In the bottom left-hand corner, a map away from a grand final meeting with Maru, a red Zerg from Basilisk is Serral.
And in the top right side of Alcyone, we are looking at the main base of the man who's played a very strong tournament here over in Dallas. But he's down 1-2. He's gonna need your love and support if you guys wanna see a Game 5. Make some noise for our reigning world champion of StarCraft II, Oliveira. Player card, 80, not 100. Oliveira really is. Did you already grab your player cards, by the way?
Yeah.
What did you get?
What do you think I got?
I mean, that's hard to guess. So to let everybody in here what we're talking about, we have a couple of the tiny player cards, the player cards that you guys get to see on stream. And then Alex lets us grab 3 cards face down from a deck. I picked mine earlier, buddy. I gotta say, I think I picked pretty good.
Who do you get?
Serral, Hero, Big Ape.
I got Classic,
Yeah.
Spirit, and Nice.
I like my team better.
Yeah, I actually got double Spirits. I traded one and then I got Nice. The only good part about this is that these are 2 of the stasis wardies, so can't go too far wrong.
Wow, that's not bad.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's the
It's
second
pretty
time I picked Serral. Actually, no. Last couple of weeks, I traded my way into a Serral.
So what you're saying is you picked out all the good ones before I got to pick?
Yeah, but there are multiple ones out there. I was the first one, by the way. But there was no cheating.
Yeah, you're the first one. You found all the good ones. Surprising, huh?
No, there was multiple Serrals
There was
in
6
there.
left when I picked.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, then, yeah. That's unlucky, mate. I love as well that I got a Zerg, Terran, and a Protoss. That's cool.
You really got the full collection, right?
And I got Hero 2 years ago as well. Back then, I got Hero and Bunny, 2 of my all-time favorite Koreans. I'm pretty lucky when it comes to selecting random player cards over here.
Lucky Roddy, man. Lucky Roddy. Drone opens up that wall off as the Reaper shows up here now, only 2.5 minutes of normality so far. And as we see Oliveira, no second gas as well, so very likely to be dropping CC number 3 to once again set up with that. And of course, the big question will be how he plays it, because last game we saw 4 CCs very quickly. The game before we saw the 8 rack, so he's really shown us the variety of things you can do on the back of 3 CC quick. So we'll see what the flavor of Alcyone will be.
Well, I feel like Oceanborn, really everything went his way. I mean, we didn't mention it anymore because the game went on for so long. The banks were so big that it doesn't really matter. But even the benches were successful, right? They found quite a few drones. They found a couple of queens. They gave him good information. Oliveira got a dream setup. He got everything he wanted, and he wasn't able to close it out. And to be honest, it wasn't closed, right? I actually thought, if anything, it was going to be Oliveira was going to snipe off the army, and Serral was going to have a very tough time figuring out what to remax on. Oh, it's Oliveira who just lost all of his units so freaking quick. I mean, yeah, it took a little while, and one big mistake, whether it's with the sky units or all your forces on the ground, can be the end immediately, even after 28 minutes of macroing. But yeah, Oliveira, the reason why I love him is not because of a game like that on Oceanborn. The stuff that we saw yesterday from Reina, the stuff that we saw when he won Katowice, where he's so decisive, he's so clutch. He's got really good micro as well in those key moments, right? And he will just go for it, deep on creep. Scan, no scan, it doesn't matter. If he feels that he's got the Zergs on the ropes, he'll never let them recover. He's not going to wait until the bell rings and like, all right, let's go ahead and regroup. No, he'll try to get you out of there. And I feel like that's in those kind of games, he shines. Oliveira, sure, can play macro, can play a slower game. And it's cool to see that he's willing to put that in his arsenal. But that's not why we love him.
That's not why we love him, as our Marines are going to go through, pick away at an Overlord. And just going to push that back, try and stop Serral from picking up further info. It will live for the moment. And once they're going to get a Banshee up from Oliveira, but no cloaking attached. And obviously that's just one of the things we've seen him mix up a little bit in amongst his builds the last couple of games. Straight into that stim pack as well, staying well and true to that bio.
Serral once more playing just a really strong series coming into this semi-finals. As crazy as that sounds, we're so deep into the tournament. Like, we've only seen 7 games of Yona. We saw him play a couple of ZVPs, and yeah, it turns out that Serral's still incredibly good at ZVP. Turns out that ZVZ is as solid and great as ever because he is the helmet Zerg. He scouts for everything, and he's second to none in that regard. We didn't really get to see him tested yet in ZVT in particular. A lot of Zergs have said that this matchup is difficult, this map pool makes it difficult. I'm gonna say, what, 4 games in, Serral looks pretty damn good. It does seem that maybe if there is hope for other players in this tournament to make him bleed, that this is the matchup, but he's definitely looking impressive.
He really is. If he closes this down, gets a go up against Maru, another potential huge run for him. It's been a fun tournament. Honestly, the greatest thing for me is that I just can't be upset with whoever makes the finals. Like, Maru Oliveira, Maru Serral, I mean, both amazing series, no matter who wins out here. It's going to be a good rest of the day still, that's for sure.
Yeah, the story will be great going into it. Let's see what happens in Game 4, as Oliveira had Interference Matrix on the way for a little bit, just in case Serral would scout it. And you're like, I'm going Cloak Banshees. In the end, we didn't go Cloak Banshees, of course, but hoping that Serral gets perhaps some Swarm Crawler more they really need. So his first 3 Queens are in a perfect position over in the bottom side of the map. Let's get the 1-1 upgrades on the way for the Lings and Banelings as well. This Baneling nest is about to finish up. Interesting opening here by Serral. Different. It's a little bit like a Ghost River. Tiny bit surprised because I feel like that maybe Yona doesn't want to play another game like Ocean Board. That could be it as well, but tiny bit surprised, Waddy, that this is the style that Serral was going to go for.
Yeah, I kind of felt like that was one of the once in a series sort of things, a switch up. But here we are, big melee upgrades, Bane speed starting up, lots of hatcheries just getting set up quickly. He's already on 76 drones, so it really is time to pump that army.
And now we can go back to that pre-game analysis of Rainer on the desk as well, saying like, if Serral is going to play Ling Bane, he could really be in trouble, because Oliveira's 8 Rex is gnarly. His Marine Micro has been so good in some of those crisis moments. Even if he doesn't see the Banelings coming, he'll still spread the Marines immediately, but picks up a couple of them as well as the armory gets dropped too now. But, if Serral would just play his regular Roach style, and he should be fine in most scenarios, even if it didn't go his way on Golden Aura, that obviously got very close. Now Serral's going to have to do it the good old-fashioned way, with Ling Bane against a lot of Marines, a lot of tanks. One great Baneling connection is perhaps all it takes, but getting that Baneling connection against an Oliveira, that's feeling it, that's on point, that has activated the turbo, as some of the players would say, is very difficult.
It's not easy, as we are going to be seeing Queens here trading now. We actually do keep them alive with the transfusions. That got close. As the Burrow coming through. He's been a big fan of the Burrow this series. He's getting it a lot of the time.
Not even necessary for those burrowed Banelings that I'm very fond of, but it's very nice to scout, right? You just put a burrowed Zergling here, burrowed Zergling there, and you can keep some track. It's kind of like having an observer. Obviously a very tiny one, but it's still very useful.
Well, Banshee fires up a few shots. Zerglings will be taking some damage. We see 7 additional Banelings morphing in, and Serral is going to have to be ready to deal with this attack right now. We are going to get the push going from Oliveira through the center of the map.
With everything.
Everything, yeah, absolutely. Hellbats are still here. The Queens are pulling away as Serral realizes what's up, and he gets his extra Banes ready to go. It's time to just go with the unit production.
I like the tank positioning, by the way. That's going to make it hard for Lynx to truly get on top of them. If they do ever manage to get there, it could be awesome, as Serral will send it down 2 ramps. A lot of the Banelings explode immediately, though. This is normally where Oliveira shines, and I see Marines left for days. The Lynx and Banelings get obliterated. Another great 8 Rex here by Oliveira, and Serral is in trouble. The Banshees are even still alive, body, and this is where Oliveira does Oliveira things. He keeps on going, and he sends it to Game 5.
Just like that. A long game on Ocean Board, and he rebounds with the 8 racks here on our side, and he gets himself into a final game against Serral. And it was simple. He just pushes, he sets up, puts the tanks in a good spot. Serral felt like that was the moment he just had to go for it. And unfortunately, it was not good enough.
The tank positioning is really cool into those little notches there, because that means that a tank can never get fully surrounded. You can only attack it with an X amount of Zerglings, but then you have to go so deep into the Terran concave already as well. Like, Serral's engagement wasn't bad. It's not like he scrolled down one ramp with all of his units clumped up. It's just Oliveira's squeeze split. Like, I sometimes get Bomber vibes when I see that stuff. That's how Bomber found so much success in the early days. He's incredibly good at that. He knows where he wants his Hellbats, he knows where he wants the tanks, And it's like, yes, the Zerg engagement is good, but the Terran setup is so powerful that even Serral's Lings and Banes won't get it done.
Well, we get to go all the way to Game 5 here in this semi-final. Serral and Oliveira going the full distance. And Oliveira, when he looks deadly, he looks very deadly. He does not mess around. Getting in there and finding himself that victory to take us to this Game 5 here in the semis. Beautiful stuff.
What is Game 5? I know we vetoed Dynasty, Post-Youth, Crimson Court. We are going to be playing on...
In a second. We're going to be playing on Site Delta.
Oh, okay. That's funny, actually.
One of the normal ones.
Yeah. But Site Delta is a map that, you know, a lot of Terrans and Zergs have very different opinions over. There are some Terrans who really die on the hill of it's a bad Terran map. And then in the previous map pool, there were actually a lot of Terrans who would pick it in competitions like WTL, where you can pick any given map. As we're going to take another look at the only true real fight here in Game 4 in Oceania. And look at those tanks, buddy. Look at the Hellbats. Look at the Marine spread across the screen. The micro off trip. I mean, Oliveira is incredibly good in this stuff.
So many Banelings just getting stopped by a Hellbat and then derping back for a single Marine. Just no real hope there for the Banelings to truly connect. And again, Serral just caught being a little bit too on the greedy side of life. You know, he went into the double Evos, he went into those upgrades. He did not go for the roaches, and Oliveira utilized that and abused that heavily.
In Game 5, what a treat it's been so far. Will it be a rematch of the IM Katowice 2023 final, or will it be a rematch of the IM Katowice 2024 final? Waddy, we're about to find out. Will it be Oliveira once more, or is it going to be Serral who's going to give us a few more TVZs? What do you think the crowd wants?
I actually don't know. The cheers for Oliveira have been pretty darn loud, but there's always cheers for Serral. I feel like it might be pretty 50-50, honestly.
And in the end, everybody will be happy because the final is going to be awesome regardless.
Yeah.
What a moment it could be for Maru as well, right? To finally lift the trophy on American soil.
Yeah. Could be great, man.
Been a long time coming. I mean, nobody is doubting Maru's greatness, but for some reason, this continent hasn't been all that kind to him.
It's very, very true. As we have some beautiful signs in the crowd, by the way. I love how interactive everyone's been this weekend. It's been a lot of fun. It is time for one final map here in these semi-finals. We're going into Site Delta to determine who Maru's grand final opponent will be. In the top left-hand corner, representing Basilisk, let's make some noise for Serral.
All right, thank you for sharing that with us. In the bottom right side of Site Delta, we are looking at the main base of the normal man who just has these days where he's everything but a normal man. Representing DKZ, Dallas, give it up for Oliveira. 50-50,
I think 50-50, yeah. And that's the ladders that have cheered all weekend for both of them as well.
I mean, these two guys are just awesome. They have entertained us so much over the years. They've given us great memories in StarCraft II. Serral, of course, has done it a few more times than Oliveira, but Oliveira has absolutely left his mark on the scene. And it's just fun. It's so cool to see Oliveira play some good StarCraft. He really was struggling for a while. He gave us some emotional speeches. He's like, I don't know what it is. I promise you guys, I'm trying, I am playing. It's just not quite adding up. Whatever happens here, it's been an amazing tournament for him. And that's really going to give him a lot of momentum as well coming into the Esports World Cup. Because before this weekend, I don't think anybody really thought about Oliveira potentially defending his title. But hey, if he's already here, if he can bring this level of play here in Dallas, if he continues this, and he improves a little bit more in the upcoming 2-3 months, who's to say that we can see Katowice 2023 all over again?
I mean, if he takes down Serral here today, he can do anything, man. Honestly, I will believe it. You know, we just said the only thing missing from the 2023 run was that Serral got knocked out in CVZ before Oliveira could meet him at any point, right? So, yes, he made it through a lot of other great players on the way.
He had a tough
I mean, he went through Raynor, Hero, Maru. Like, it doesn't get harder than that apart from if you had Serral in there, so...
And of course, Big Gabriel as well, the very first run.
In round of 12, yeah.
Yeah, they had very different, obviously Serral won Katowice twice, but it's really funny as well if you compare their runs, where Oliveira back then went 2-3 in the group stage, went 6-6 in maps. Meanwhile, Serral won Katowice, going 5-0 in the group stage, going 20-1 in maps. Probably one of the best performances ever that we have seen in StarCraft II. Oliveira throughout that entire event, obviously that final day did make his numbers look a lot better, but 19-11 or 20-1, that is a difference. But
Yeah.
Oliveira's victory was just as memorable, if not a whole lot more memorable than anything else we've seen in SC2.
Triple CC again from Oliveira, steering away from any double gas, kind of 2-base play. Still happy to go up to the 3 bases. And do you think, Roddy, that these 8 racks are just working well enough that he just wants to send it one more time with something like that? Or is that something you just can't do again against a Serral who might just play that a little bit safer?
It's tough, but even if you play a little bit safer, if you start playing too safe, then Oliveira can also slow the game down a little bit, right? And it's so hard to find that fine line. And yeah, this has a lot to do with the Baneling losing some of his HP as well, and it's just becoming a few things. Perhaps the maps as well. Side Delta is a map that we've played on for a while. I don't think a lot of Terrans look at this and be like, yeah, this is a great 8-Rex map. It's not impossible, but it's not the dream either. I don't really know what I'd like to see in house. And maybe Oliveira had a plan initially for Side Delta, but if you've had 2 games that played out the way they did on Ghost River, and especially Oceanborn, right, where he really was able to get away with everything he wanted to, and it didn't go your way, but then you do get 2 very quick wins on the board with the 8-Rex. At this point, I may throw my initial plan overboard and be like, F it, I'm doing it again. This is what we are going to do. And I'm curious if Serral is maybe going to build more roaches. If you're going to be a bit heavier on like 1-1 roach, for instance, fire up missile attacks. Don't make those safety roaches to then go into Link Bane or play Link Bane from the very get-go. What if Serral just shuts him down with a combination of roaches, ravages, and infestors?
That's a very different way of going about it, but it could be true if Serral has been so good at kind of diversifying his style over time. As Overlord wants to scout, we'll see CC number 3 is going to see a Starport and Attack Lab. Are we? No, it's not that actually, sorry. It's on the natural. He was researching the interference matrix on the natural on that Starport just to put a bit of a fake out, pretend it's cloak when it isn't going to be. So once again, it's going to be them 2 cloakless Banshees from Oliveira.
Could lead into the 8-Rex, because that's what he did as well in the previous game where he cancelled. Obviously, he didn't go for cloak, but he went interference matrix as well. Don't really want to spend your resources on this stuff, because 8-Rexes, sure, the Banshees help, and they can slow the Zerg down a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's about the guy with the gun and nothing else. Now the tanks.
Yeah, the tanks are a pretty big part of it. Double engineering base starting. Again, Lair is quicker here from Serral as he has opened with that Roach Roar. It's a different way of opening than this double Evo chamber style, which is definitely not done him many favors. When he's been opening with it, it feels like he ends up in some trouble. So this time around is going to be, like I say, back to those Roaches, into that Lair, get some of the tech up before really trying to just be as greedy.
Yep, Link's already running around with speed, making sure that Oliveira can't do something too crazy with these Hellions. We haven't really seen that throughout the series. Huh? Often in the best of 5s, it's one of the games you'll see a Terran just grab their Hellions and get a little adventurous. Whether it's the first 2 or maybe the first 4 Hellions, Oliveira has been very, very good in keeping them alive, but it obviously means you're not going to get those crazy drone shots either.
Banshees are still up and around at the top here as we keep on moving on. Just looking for their first kind of pincer into one of these bases, a chance to try and get a couple of drones perhaps, and just start perhaps the snowball rolling a little bit, but Queens are immediately here as the Banshees were seen. So yeah, goodbye Banshees for the moment. You guys have to back away and come back later as missile upgrades start.
Yeah, he changed his mind. He went +1 melee, +1 carapace, and then he decided to cancel them, and he actually went +1 missile attacks and +1 carapace. So I don't think Serral just changed his mind. Maybe that's like the, because he's been researching melee a lot. It's like, all right, let's just kind of build in. Like, no, that's not what I want to do. I do want to go for those missile attacks, and I like it, Wadi. A quick infestation pit as well. That doesn't necessarily have to be for a quick hive. That can obviously be for a couple of those infestors early on, as the Baning Nest has been dropped to. Different approach by Serral, as Serral feels there is such a good chance that you're going to go up to 8 Rexes, 1 Factory, 1 Starport once more and just try to win the game. We see everything. Serral has not seen everything, but has a pretty good idea, I think, that this is happening. Oliveira is doing it once more, Wadi. Can't blame him for it. There comes the armory. And as Serral, he does fire up the hive. This is where you start wondering, right? Like, is it going to be a little bit too greedy? From here on out, I do think Serral needs nothing but units, like 81 drones and a hive on the way. That's already it. It's going to take a little while before bailing speed even comes into play. There are those extra roaches. Here come the first ravages as well. Oh man, what a moment here in Game 5, semifinals of Dallas. Who is going to advance and play Maru in the grand finals? Will it be Serral or will it be Oliveira, who's getting a couple of missile turrets, buddy? Worried either about Tunneling Claws or somehow his fire, but Not sure if those missile turrets are truly needed.
Definitely not going to help him too much with his push, are they? So that's going to be a problem, no doubt, as a few queens turn in. Whoa, the leg gets around on these Marines, and it just traps them for a moment. Some damage lost, and that means some medevac energy will be drained.
Yeah, and also just 3 Marines, right? Like as silly as that sounds, that is going to have an impact on some of these fights. 11 Banelings on the way for Serral, as Baneling speed is now more than halfway done. +1 missile attacks has finished up. +1 carapace has finished up. Don't have any spellcasters yet. With that knife coming online right now, I think the Ultralisk Cavern would be maybe pushing it a little bit, because Serral's really not all that rich at the moment. He's got a great economy, but I wouldn't hate a Viper or two, right? And there come those first 2 Vipers immediately. Blinding Cloud, Abduct, it really doesn't matter. It's both fantastic, because once you take out the tanks, yeah, that's when the Marines are going to have a tough time getting the job done by themselves.
Yeah, Vipers are absolutely what we want to see here. A couple of Blind Clouds can change battles. As you do see those Marines push back once again. Oliveira still just darting about with these medevacs, trying to find openings and opportunities. Serral will also invest into Adrenal Glands, which if he gets that to finish, then brilliant. When is go time for Oliveira?
These moments are so tense. I think it's right now, Wardy. Yeah. Here come the boys, the Hellions as well. They can obviously morph into Hellbats. Serral does drop the Ultralisk Cavern to it. The entire best of 5 basically comes down to the next 2 fights, 1 fight, whatever it's going to be. Will the Banelings find what they are looking for? Or is Oliveira somehow able to get the job done with the exact same build 3 times in a single best of 5?
Here we go, some Roach Bane already beating this army before the tanks of siege. We dive in, we pull back a little bit. That's the choice of Serral. He does have Vipers on the way. They'll be gathering energy right now. They need to be here for this fight to jump on those tanks into Blinding Clouds. And the issue for Serral right now is that's a big choke point that Oliveira is setting up, and he needs to find a way to fight from a couple of directions.
There is energy on that Viper, but now obviously Oliveira knows there is a Viper as well, so he can spread out the tanks. Serral's gonna fully surround his army. He's got units in the bottom left. He's got units coming from the top right. This is it.
Here we go, as Serral comes in from, I was gonna say all angles, but we're missing from any other angle at the moment. It's just the top left, which he actually gets pushed away from. He does have Lings in the center. They're stopping reinforcements. Now they're going to come in for the flank. No, they turn around again. Serral is still indecisive. He's not quite sure if or when he wants to fight this, as he's just going to be settling for reinforcement pickoffs with those Lings.
That is something though, right? And these Lings are about to get their hands on Adrenal Glands as well. +1 melee is close to finishing up. The Queens have done an amazing job in buying time. Losing this hatchery is not the end of the world for Serral, as long as he doesn't lose all these units. He is just waiting, getting a few more like parasitic bombs, abducts, whatever it's going to be. Baneling's leading the charge. I think Oliveira is actually quite happy with how all of this is going so far. Serral needs to find bigger wins than he's been able to get so far.
The Banelings crash in, that's the Marines. Blinding Clouds on the tanks, as the Roaches make it dive through. The tanks are starting to drop, and Serral is getting into this army. Wow. The tanks keep on dropping. The bio is going to have to pick up and retreat, and Serral is going to push Oliveira back home.
Ooh, what an unbelievable display of patience there by Serral. Just letting that hatchery tank a lot of shots. The Queens, they were soaking up a lot of the tank shots as well. He picked up the reinforcements. He waited until he got his hands on a few more units, a little bit of extra energy as well on the Vipers. Lands a Blinding Cloud. And we have the first Ultras on the way, as Kindness plating is 85% done, and that's going to be incredibly difficult for Oliveira to deal with. He is going to complement his army with a couple Liberators. We see the first Liberators on the way, but these Liberators are not going to have advanced ballistics. They don't have any upgrades. Oliveira did fire up +3, by the way, for bio. No +3 armors. He's really just not that rich. He's just a 3-based Terran player. Wow, what unbelievable display of patience there by Serral.
He had me baited. I thought he was going to fight at least twice, and he just didn't go for it again. Patience, waiting, and it really paid off for him. Is now the supplies are even, but this is such a different scenario with all of that tech up. The Ultras, Kindness playing, starting when it started was ridiculous as well. Adrenal Glands from the very beginning. These are all things that you're not meant to have to fight against when you're 8-raxing as Oliveira, so that is a huge deal right now.
Yep, Liberators could still be the main issue. Like, I think at this point, Serral should always be fine against Marines, Marauders, and tanks, as long as you don't take a really bad engagement, and this is Serral, you shouldn't do that. But Liberators could still complicate things a little bit, but Serral knows that, and some of the Ravages pick up one of the Libs immediately. Of course, we still have access to Vipers as well. You can abduct the Liberator, and that's when it's no longer in its shooting mode. You can also just drop a couple parasitic bombs to at least soften them up, as these Link counterattacks, by the way, are going to be incredibly difficult to deal with, because these Links are feisty. They've got good upgrades, +2 armor, +1 melee, Adrenal Glands. It's going to be very difficult. They're going to come in from the bottom as well, picking up some reinforcements at first, and it seems that this is gonna go Serral's way.
Here we go once again. Serral coming in from the top left-hand side. He baited so many units down to the bottom right with those lings as well. He decides not to go any further. However, he's happy with what he's done. So he pulls back, maybe just a few too many tank shots going off. Would rather, again, play patiently. More units on the way out still. And this is becoming a fairly entrenched position. He wants to make sure that when he fights, it's with everything and from all angles.
Yep, and Oliveira does have +3 close to finishing up, so that might actually come into play. We have dropped a blinding cloud on one of the tanks in the bottom side. Ultras are leading the charge. Ravagers are going to try to take care of these Liberators once more, and that's another Liberator falling as these Lings are still making it impossible for Oliveira to reinforce this position.
Ultras coming through, the Banes as well, trying to chase the Biochitin back as best as it can. The Liberators are huge, though. They're getting so many good shots off on the Liberators, and while Serral is kind of keeping Oliveira at bay, Oliveira is just about hanging on in there. Finishes off this hatchery. He'll take that for the moment, lift up and get out, and just reset back towards the lib and maybe some more of those reinforcing tech units.
Oliveira throws down a scan in the bottom left side, wondering if there's a hatchery there as well, and there is, and he obviously knows killing a hatchery is great, but the drones, they did not go down, so those two will just be transferred to the bottom left side. Hatchery is going to get killed, -300 minerals. Serral's nowhere near mixed out, so that is a bit problematic as we drop a parasitic bomb on one of the medevacs, but the micro by Oliveira initially is good, then brings it back into the rest of the pack. He loses 2 of his medevacs. Every single unit is so important for a 3-base Oliveira.
Those Lings just keep on stopping reinforcements from trailing across the map. We are going to go for this hatchery. That's a dive in from Oliveira, with Ultras giving him a cuddle at the point of impact. So that hatchery goes down. Another one lost for Serral. Drones will have to go elsewhere, but Oliveira did lose a little bit more army supply. He's definitely lost momentum and position finally.
Impressive, though, that he got 2 hatcheries there, and he even got the kill right on the new hatchery, so technically he got 3 bases there. That's pretty sick by Oliveira, as he does have hands on +3. He snuck in a 4th command center during all of this. I'm sure that he is not loving life, but he might think, like, hey, if I can morph this 4th base into a planetary, and I do still have some Liberators out, I've got +3. Might actually be playable even against high-tech Zerg. And Serral did really take a pretty severe economic beating there towards the very tail end of it, when it started to look so good for Serral. As these Lings are going to find this command center, we'll see that tanks have sieged up as well. I'm really curious what Serral's going to do about it.
Yeah, I wonder if he is just going to set up to try and bust down one of those bases. Maybe he would have done if you were, hadn't taken that little bit of extra eco damage, because then you're comfortable kind of reinforcing behind a trade. If losing that, he might be a little bit more skeptical about, forcing a fight himself here. Ultra's numbers are still rising. We do also have ourselves, Festa was added on at some point as well, so 1 or 2 of those might start lurking around as full energy Vipers move down to the bottom side.
And Vipers are terrifying, right, for Oliveira, because obviously you don't have a Ghost Academy. When you've played this kind of a game, you don't really have an answer for them. And then dealing with 1 Viper that has a bit of energy, that might be possible, but dealing with multiple Vipers, and now Infest is in the mix as well, it is going to be very hard. Army supplies, though, we are damn competitive, 122 against 123, and that does mean that if Oliveira just takes 1 great fight, it could still go his way, but the floodgates are open on his side of the map. He's going to lose SCP, he's going to have a very difficult time ever securing that base again. And he says, all right, base for a base. He is just praying that Serral gets impatient and takes 1 bad fight through a choke point where the Liberators can shine like they have never shined before.
Biofine Hatchery taking damage. Some Banes on that planetary is going to jump on, and we are going to see a lot of STVs going down. So Oliveira is going to be losing this base. He's just now established. A couple of Ravagers going to get blown up. This wasn't a free trade for Serral. He's obviously losing base to himself as Oliveira is across the other side, and this is where sometimes Oliveira is the most dangerous, where he's got 1 army that the Zerg still has to clean up at some point.
Yep, the Liberators may not have advanced ballistics, but there's many Liberators, especially on a map like Side Delta, will always have potential. What a best of 5 this has been, and it will all come down to this. Once more, round 2, the 3 Rex that just went on for a little bit longer. Medevacs have been working overtime, though. There is not a whole lot of healing left on these units, so every single stim is going to hurt Oliveira. And Serral already displayed fantastic patience once, and I think he's doing it again, Waddy.
He is just waiting. He knows given time he will have more to deal with. He's doing more damage. There's no reinforcements ever going to make it across the map, and then Serral just needs to find the moment to take this army down with parasitic bombs chipping through the Liberator count. We are making this an easier scenario. We're actually going to go through here with the Ultras. Decides to pull back, though, and that means some free damage gets done, and Oliveira gets a little bit more catches. Both of the Vipers as well to give him a bit more of a chance.
Oh my, -2 Vipers. Serral's lost a Roach 1-2. He's going to build 2 of them. He's turning around with these Ultras. That's a lot of circles. If there was ever a moment when the Liberators could make the difference, you would think that this is it. But Serral just has units for days. More Lings coming in, and it's just a couple Liberators left for Oliveira. It seems that Serral, the man who's been a bit of a mystery over the last few months, We know he's fulfilling the mandatory military service in Finland. Still got it, and he is going to advance into the grand finals. VOD, that much is said. Oliveira with one SCV remaining knows it. GG, well played. It's Serral who's going to meet Maru once more.
One absolutely incredible game 5. It was so close. Oliveira almost had that Oliveira magic where he's not meant to be winning, he's not meant to be having a chance anymore, and yet there's still a bit of hope. That one final army, and I think Serral was feeling a little bit too. He was not quite sure he was ever going to clean that up, but he was able to get there in the end, and Serral advances to play Maru in another grand final this year.
A best of 5 for the ages. A long time ago, Serral and Oliveira back then time had an epic series over in Finland where Serral won, but we all spoke